everybody, this is Keith here of Euphoria Pictures. Welcome back to my channel. Right, so for this video I thought I would stop by and share with you some of my recent 4K Arrow video pickups. Now there's going to be 4 titles altogether in this video, and it goes without saying, but I am going to briefly talk about the movies themselves and of course the 4K transfers. Not going to go into too much detail here because again I just don't want a video to go on for too long. So with that said, I am going to jump right into it. I'm going to start with the first one, and finally got around to picking up Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill. Now, I'm not going to lie, I was never a huge fan of this movie when I seen it back in the day. And I said, screw it, I seen it at a great price, I was going to take a gamble on it. Hopefully I'd feel very differently about it now. Unfortunately, not a whole lot has changed. And the only reason why I'm saying that is I found the movie very predictable. I found it predictable back in the day. I still find it massively predictable. Surprise, surprise there. Now, if you're not particularly aware of Dressed to Kill, the premise is quite simple. Nancy Allen witnesses the murder of a woman. It's actually in an elevator. That scene is actually quite fantastic, by the way. But yeah, she witnesses this murder. Of course, the person that done the murder starts stalking Nancy Allen. And it is one of those kind of things of who's doing it kind of movie. Now, they make it quite obvious throughout the movie that it is a man dressed as a woman that's doing this. The only problem is, when you're building this movie up to be a kind of like a reveal kind of movie, naturally you would like a few more men in it. And unfortunately, all you get is the likes of Michael Caine and Keith Gordon. And you do get a look at the killer in that elevator scene right at the start of it, and you can clearly see, you can kind of make out who it actually is. So yes, I always find the reveal, when the reveal happens in it, you're like, wow, I did not see that coming. So yeah, I was always a little bit disappointed with it. But again, I don't hate the movie. I think that's important. I just wish it was more than it is. Let's put it that way. This is seen as probably one of Brian De Palma's best movies. And when you see some of the set pieces throughout, you do understand, you really do. It's beautifully shot. It's a wonderful watch, it really is. But again, it's just the whole predictable side that kind of ruins it for me. Now, when it comes to the 4K transfer on this one, I have to tell you, I thought it was a great image here. It kind of reminded me of, there's 2 things going on with it. If you're familiar with Carrie on 4K, which of course is directed by Brian De Palma, it has this kind of soft lens look to it. Well, that's exactly how Dressed to Kill looks as well. And then it also has this giallo look to it. So if you're familiar with giallo on 4K, where the colours are nice and vibrant, nice deep colours, you're getting that as well. So it's kind of, like I said, a mix of Brian De Palma's soft lens look and giallo horror movies. It makes a wonderful 4K image. The grain structure on it looks so healthy, and is consistently healthy throughout the movie. It's hands down the best it's ever looked. And it also comes with a DTS 5.1 audio on this one. I'm not going to lie, it is not the most active mix you're ever likely to hear, but we are talking about Dressed to Kill here. Most of what is happening in terms of audio is front heavy, and I don't think you're going to have too many issues with it. So all in all, I still had a good time with it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it. But I'm going to stick with it, and hopefully in time I will grow to appreciate it a bit more than I do right now. I'm very optimistic. So there you have it. That is my first pick, Dressed to Kill. Right, so moving on to my next 4K release, and I have to tell you, I was very excited to get my hands on this one. The movie is Swordfish. So I am a huge, and I mean a huge fan of this movie, even though it's been a long time since I've seen it. And I was a little bit concerned because I didn't know how well it was going to hold up today. Thankfully, I had absolutely nothing to worry about. It's a fantastic movie, it really is. Now, if you're not particularly aware of Swordfish, it stars Hugh Jackman, John Travolta and Halle Berry. And Hugh Jackman is a famous hacker who's on parole, and he's also going through a big custody battle, which he's losing. And he's propositioned by John Travolta to kind of basically come out of retirement. He's offered $10 million. And because he is losing that custody battle with his daughter, he accepts. But the thing is, he doesn't realise what he's getting into. And I'm going to say no more about it. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. It really is. I remember the hype surrounding this when it first came out, particularly when you see the opening sequence to it, because there is this segment where they use bullet time, and bullet time was such a big deal back then. And I have to tell you, that segment is still incredible today. It looks amazing, it sounds amazing, and it is definitely the high point of this movie. But yeah, I had a great time with it. I think, like I said, it holds up incredibly well. The cast is fantastic in it. Hal Berry. Need I say any more? I'm not going to say any more. If you know, you know, and I'll say no more about it. Now, when it comes to the 4K transfer on this one, folks, I had to tell you, this is hands down the best it's ever looked. I'm not going to say it's a night and day difference over the Blu-ray, but there is a considerable difference there. The color palette in particular, I think, looks fantastic. Sometimes it looks yellow, sometimes it looks green. The movie has this real stylistic look to it, and it looks exactly how I remember seeing it back in the cinema. It is a faithful 4K presentation. The image is so incredibly sharp on it. So much detail across the board on this one. It is a stunning, and I mean stunning, 4K transfer. Again, it's a testament to Arrow Video and the work they put behind this one. Now, it does come with a DTS 5.1 audio. I'm not going to lie, I was very disappointed that it didn't come with Atmos. That's the one problem I have with Arrow at the moment. They're a little inconsistent there. Some titles get Atmos, others don't. This one should have got Atmos. The segment that I mentioned earlier when it comes to the bullet time sequence right at the start of it, that still sounds amazing. Thankfully, it sounds amazing. When that explosion goes off, I'm not kidding, the speakers are just going wild. It's incredible. It really is a cool effect. But again, you kind of wonder to yourself how better it would have sounded if Atmos was behind it. The only problem I had was the rest of the movie, because if you're familiar with Swordfish, it has this kind of cyberpunk soundtrack to it. And I was expecting like reference bass out of this one, but it's not there. Don't get me wrong, the bass does sound great, but it should have been so much deeper. So again, you do question if Atmos was there, you know, how much better it would have actually sounded. I think it would have sounded quite amazing. So the one downside when it comes to this 4K release, but take nothing away from it, it's still a very impressive DTS 5.1 audio on this one. So there you have it, folks. Swordfish. If you haven't checked this one out, this one comes highly recommended. Right, so moving on, I finally got around to picking up Jason Goes to Hell. Now, look, I understand that there's not a huge fan base out there for this one, and it's because of how little Jason features throughout this movie. But you know what? I always had a good time with it. You know, the series was going beyond repetitive at this point. So I wanted something a little bit different. And you do get it with this movie because Jason is jumping from body to body. But again, it didn't sit well with people, and I completely understand, because naturally when you're watching a Friday the 13th movie, you're there to see Jason. So when he's not featured too much throughout, it's going to piss off a lot of fans. But like I said, I had a good time with it. It never comes remotely close to any of the Paramount movies that we got before this. But like I said, I still enjoyed it. So much so that I felt it was right to pick up the 4K release of it. And I have to tell you, this is a wonderful, and I mean a wonderful 4K image. Is it reference quality? No, far, far from it. But I think you're going to be impressed with it nonetheless. The image looks considerably sharper, particularly when you stack it up against the previous Blu-ray. The grain is much better resolved on this one. Everything just looks a bit tighter. The colours in particular, the implementation of Dolby Vision, everything now just has a more natural appearance. Can be a little bit vivid at times. That's fine. I'm okay with that. It doesn't go too crazy. It doesn't go crazy like it did with the likes of Species, which I reviewed quite recently. But like I said, for the most part, the colours remain very natural looking. And I think it's a stunning 4K image. The black levels in particular look extraordinary, particularly on my setup here. That's exactly what I wanted to see when it comes to a movie like Jason Goes to Hell, because as you know, it being a Friday the 13th movie, naturally it's going to be a little bit dark. So all in all, yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful 4K transfer on this one. And I think fans of the movie are going to be very happy with it. I can't imagine you've been disappointed. Now, it comes with a DTS 5.1 audio. There's also a 2-channel audio there as well. I never checked it out. I listened to the 5.1. I didn't need to check the 2-channel because the 5.1 was very, very impressive. It is a nice active mix when it needs to be. There is some nice low-end bass. Again, it goes without saying, far from reference, but we knew that going into this one. But I have to tell you, is when you hear the score of this movie, Wow, I've never heard it sounding so incredible. There's just this great sense of presence to it, and it's because it is belting, and it's belting hard out of every single speaker. It sounds amazing, the score on this one, even though it's not my favourite score when it comes to a Friday the 13th movie. But take nothing away from it, I still think you're going to be very impressed with it. And there is a nice bit of separation there with your speakers, and dialogue sounds very clean. It's a fantastic 5.1 audio on this one. Did it need a Dolby Atmos? I'm going to say no. This one definitely gets the job done, and I can't imagine Atmos adding a whole lot to it. So all in all, I was very impressed with the 4K picture on this one, and the sound sounds equally as impressive. So there you have it, Jason Goes to Hell. If you're a fan of this one, definitely recommend looking into this release. Right, so moving on to the last 4K title that I'm going to feature in this video. So I showed Jason Goes to Hell. Naturally, I was always going to pick up Jason X. Now, I can comfortably tell you that this is hands down the worst movie in the series for me. I was never a fan of it, but the thing is, whenever I sit down to watch the entire series, I always want to see it through. So naturally, I always want to watch Jason X. And I have to tell you, there is some very creative deaths throughout this movie, and it's one of the main reasons to why I would watch this one. But I've said it to so many people, when a series like this, when it ends up going to space, that's when you know the franchise is done. It's amazing to think that this had the most expensive budget when it comes to a Friday the 13th movie up to this point. But somehow it managed to be the cheapest looking movie out of the lot. The thing with me as well, like, as I watch every Friday the 13th movie that I watch, there's always maybe one or two characters that I kind of attach myself to, that I actually really enjoy, and you genuinely care what happens to them. I can't say the same for Jason X. I hate every single character in the movie, and I couldn't give two shits to what happens to them throughout it. But like I said, it is a Friday the 13th movie, and when I watch the series, naturally I want to see it through, and it's why I picked this one up on 4K. Now, speaking of that 4K transfer, I have to tell you, I was not impressed with this 4K restoration. Now, I'm almost certain I read this a couple of months back, but apparently this movie was shot in film, and then it was transferred digitally. And it was something to do with keeping the effects cost down. So yes, it's the first movie in the series to actually have a digital intermediate. But I have to tell you, I found the image to be unbelievably soft. I couldn't believe how soft it was. And not only that, but I also noticed DNR on this image, and I can't believe that those words are coming out of my mouth, because this is an Arrow Video release. And I don't think I've ever seen digital noise reduction being used on any of the 4K restorations. But I knew something was going to happen with this one. I knew there was going to be something odd about the transfer because of the way it was shot. You know, having that digital intermediate. I knew things weren't going to look quite right on this one. Thankfully, the implementation of Dolby Vision does heighten things quite a bit, particularly when you stack it up against the previous Blu-ray. Not only that, but it is a very dark movie, much similar to Jason Goes to Hell, and the black levels on this one do look great. Not amazing, far from amazing, but it's good. It is good, and again, I will take that all day long. Thankfully, it does come with a good active 5.1 mix, and I was very surprised by how active it gets. Even in those more quieter moments, you're going to appreciate some of the ambient sounds that you're going to hear, and it's coming out of your rear channels, and it will take you by surprise, and there's quite a lot of that throughout this movie. But when things get real chaotic, the 5.1 handles it perfectly. There is some nice separation there. I was really surprised by some of the low-end bass that you hear on this one, particularly in one or two segments of the movie. I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. And the dialogue sounds very, very clean on this one. It's a wonderful, I mean a wonderful DTS 5.1 audio, and it's probably one of the main reasons to why you would want to pick up this 4K release. I wish I could say the same for the 4K transfer, but unfortunately I can't. Very disappointed with this one. So that is it, folks. That is everything that I'm going to feature in this video. So as per usual, if you did like what you see here, please do give it a thumbs up, and if you could do, leave a comment down below, and please do share your thoughts on some of the movies that I featured in this video. And yeah, I hope to speak to you all again real soon with my next video. Until then, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.